people tend to underestimate the toll that building a business actually takes on our health and our mental health. And we're so busy, we're so driven, we're so into this, solving the problems day to day, that we just don't step back and we sacrifice our health without even thinking about it. And then what I see happen a lot is that afterwards, many post-exit founders don't actually take enough care of their health, and they jump straight into another business just because it's so uncomfortable, so unfamiliar.
That's right. Being the operator, and kind of seeing two of our kids struggling in very different ways. I tried to learn to be present. I think that's when I started doing breath work and started trying to breathe, because I think I realized that when I am very high focus and multitasking and kind of being in operations mode, I don't breathe as well as I should. So first of all, that helped. Second, I was in therapy, right? So it's not like I stopped it while I was doing, all the companies, but therapy definitely helped. But returning back to slowing down, I think, was a big part of it, because I think my whole body and my whole nervous system was shot by the time we sold Buddy Media, because I had so many balls in the air and was worried about so many different things, especially the kids and then all of the employees that I felt responsible for and responsible to, that I had to kind of take everything one by one off my shoulders and kind of go through this exercise of literally visualizing. So I went back to the tools that I had learned as an athlete, which was like this visualization, which some people just basically call meditation, right? You're just visualizing what you want to happen, or and taking things off my shoulders and realizing that I am no longer responsible for those things and I can let them go. I see a lot of entrepreneurs who, like you said, are stuck. And I think another part of it is because they haven't let go of some of the responsibilities, which becomes the record that gets played behind them at all times. So for me, it was that. And also focusing on health, because by the end of Buddy Media, Mike said he gained 40 pounds. I was probably 30 pounds overweight and doing everything I could to try to figure out what was going on. And it turned out that, yes, my stress system, my cortisol was high and, off the charts, but I had very severe thyroid disease, which I was undiagnosed. And so I spent the next 10 years trying to figure that out. And that's where I think every entrepreneur should start, is with health.
And especially with mental health, even more than physical health. I think people are doing better with physical health, but mental health is so scary, so unfamiliar to so many of us. And I know you've mentioned it in your previous interviews that you have, each of you, dealt separately with mental health diagnoses. And would you mind sharing how you embraced that, how you dealt with it through the whole journey?
Absolutely. I'll start with, I've had anxiety and bouts of depression my whole life. It runs in, my family of origin, and my symptoms are of, I will start to do more and more and more and more. That's like a coping mechanism for me, is I, like you said, I never wanted to be comfortable with the feelings of being anxious. And so over time, and we're talking like 30 years of working on myself, I've learned to embrace it and then understand what are more positive and more impactful coping mechanisms, right? Because you don't want to be doing more of the stuff that actually increases your anxiety and decreases your mental health. So, that, like I said, all the tools that I've mentioned before, but the mental health thing is really scary because it can paralyze you. And the more and more you can get comfortable with, not being shameful about it. Like I've had, I don't know why, and Mike, maybe you can agree with this or not, but I've never really been ashamed of my anxiety. I've tried to use it as a superpower. And when it's not being used for good, that's when it gets in the way. That's when I know it's taking over, if that makes sense. and I've got to step back and kind of concentrate more on it.
So how do you reframe your anxiety as superpower? What do you tell yourself?
So the way I've thought about it is, and I think I tell a lot of college kids this, right? I talk to my two sons, friends, is that everybody's got strengths and weaknesses, right? You're born with whatever it is that you have. And there's a reframing of how you can look at something. My anxiety of trying to make sure that I understand the path and what is the most efficient and way to move forward and how do I rally teams to move forward, that is a gift. But my mind could continuously think about the different paths, right? So I chose purposely, and I think mindset is a choice, right? So you have to start to choose how you think, and you have to choose what you're going to reframe. So it's not always been like, how do I reframe something? It's the act of reframing
Okay.
that actually has made things better.
Yeah.